Team, this is a Credo training session that we thought might be helpful for you to have to refer to moving forward. So first thing I'm going to do is I've just pulled up the Concur website, and I want to go in and go to the expense side of things. So I'm going to click on expense. And wait for it to do its thing. And so as expense comes up, I did want to show you, if you've never done this before, hopefully you have, but just how to create a new report. In this case, I am calling this, and this is what everyone should do, is call the report name the actual cycle name for our credit card. So in this case, this would be March 27th through April 27th. And this would also be, you can leave all this other stuff blank if you want. Just click Next. And so that report will show up. Now I'm going to go back and look at my existing expense report because I want to show you how to move some things over. In this case, I still have the March 26th, or February 26th to March 26th that I left an expense or two open so I could use it as an example. And what will typically happen is if you go into available expenses, you will see any expenses that you've incurred and how they need to move over into your report. And you basically can either click one or just slide one over, or you can click them all and slide them all over. And once they all end up in the report, you'll end up with several that may show up like these, where you have an exclamation point that means that there is more work to be done. And so in this case, I'll just click on this software subscription, which happens to be one of our additional GoToMeeting licenses. And it's already set up. You always want to check the expense type. So in this case, software subscriptions is correct. You always want the transaction date to be the date that it actually happened. And in this case, for business purpose, I'm basically going to just put in what the memo has, which I put from my phone when I originally put in the expense, is just additional GoToMeeting license. And actually, it's a monthly license fee. And so in this case, this just allows, whenever we put this information into the system, into QuickBooks, it will allow us to always refer back and just have more detail around what that specific expense was. So you don't have to put a dissertation in business purpose, but really try to put in what it truly is. And what I typically do from the phone is I usually put in I take a picture of the receipt, I put in the amount, make sure it's posted for the date that the transaction occurred, and I usually put in the comment section the project number, or at least the project name, and if it's overhead related like this, I'll at least put in what it represents. So hope that's helpful to you. You can also add a receipt, so you can attach a receipt here. You can click on available receipts here, so you can see which receipts you have out there. You can always forward a receipt to your Concur account at receipts@concur.com. I think you can also use receipts@concursolutions.com, and they will show up in your store because they're hooked to your email, and so you can get them that way. The hard part with the receipt store is that all of the receipts are pretty small, and it's hard to see what they are unless you open each one up. So you have your option of how that works. You can also grab receipts from up here as well. So several different options. So in this case, I've got my expense type in, I've got my transaction date correct, business purpose is good. This was already filled in from the vendor description, the amount, and at this point, the only other thing I wanted to show you is that we are now making the customer job mandatory. And so in this case, the best thing to do if it's an overhead expense is to type in Credo. When you type in Credo, you'll see a listing of several different accounts. In this case, we want to select Credo LLC overhead. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to show you what these other accounts represent in case you have an expense that is relevant. The for many of you, you don't deal with architecture-related projects. For those that do, we have either explained to or will explain how to use these other accounts. This listing of conference accounts, there actually is a cheat sheet of each conference representing a different number. Mike is in the process, Mike Brinkley, of going in and changing these accounts so that they at least have an abbreviated conference name. And so that'll be helpful for you when you go through the drop down. If you need one of these account numbers in advance of that happening, just let Emma know or Mike know or me know, and we can share with you which number you should be using. But this would equate to any expense related to that conference. We want you to use this particular job number. That will allow us in the system to go back and help us understand, for instance, how much did we spend at CIC or CCCU or NatCap and so on. And so that will be extremely helpful. And then the other piece that I wanted to point out then is that with the most of your expenses you'll deal with will fall into this Credo LLC overhead category. And so this will become a mandatory field. We just wanted to make sure this training video got out to you first before we actually turned it on. So that is done. I'm now going to hit save, and that should go ahead and eliminate the exclamation point, which it did. So at this point, once you have completed all your expenses and gotten all the exclamation points out, at that point you are then ready to let Susan know that you've completed that report, and we're trying to get that all done in a timely fashion. As I said in our last staff meeting, we really have a lot of money, $80,000 a month, that flows through this this Concur application, and we need to make sure that we're not only getting that money allocated to the right accounts so that we can invoice the clients, but also the important thing is that there's a compliance factor, that we have to have receipts on file. If we were ever audited, that would be an issue, and we have many of our clients that are also asking for receipts as well. So your cooperation is extremely important so that it helps us touch this stuff once and do it right, and then we can move on with our other business. So thanks so much. If you have any questions, please, by all means, let one of us know. That can be me or Laura or Susan or Trudy, and we'll try to be as helpful as possible. Thanks again.